Part 1, The Box on the Porch. It was the kind of morning where everything felt 2 shades quieter than usual. The kind where even the birds seemed to hold their breath. I'd just come in from the back fields when I saw it. A cardboard box sitting neatly on the front porch, taped shut, no return address. That wasn't unusual in itself. We get deliveries out here sometimes. But something about this one felt wrong. Like it had been left, not delivered. Like it had a memory attached to it that I hadn't met yet. I crouched down and looked for a name. Nothing. Just my address, written in a hand I hadn't seen in over 16 years. Her hand. Sophie. I didn't open it right away. I brought it inside, set it on the table, and stood over it like it might detonate. My dog, Boone, sat down beside me, sensing whatever I wasn't saying out loud. Sophie and we hadn't spoken since she left. No goodbye. No forwarding number. Just an empty closet and a letter I couldn't bring myself to finish reading. 16 years is a long time to leave a man wondering. And now, this. When I finally peeled back the tape, I found a stack of notebooks inside. Small, leather-bound. Worn at the edges. Beneath them, an envelope. My name written in that same deliberate script. I opened it. Cal. If you're reading this, then I'm gone. Not metaphorically. Not romantically. Just, gone. I won't waste words on apologies. I'll leave that to the pages. But there's something you need to know. Something I couldn't carry with me any longer. That was it. No date. No return address. Just her voice, echoing out of a place I thought I'd buried. I picked up the first notebook. Inside, the date, July 6, 2008. The day after she disappeared. I didn't move for hours. Just read. Through entries that started casual, meals eaten, places visited, and turned darker. More confessional. By the third entry, I'd learned something that knocked the air out of my chest. I lied to you. About the trip. About why I left. And most of all, about the child. I pushed the notebook away and sat back. The child? My hands were shaking. Boone looked up at me like he understood. I stood up slowly and walked outside. The air felt too big. That's when I saw it. A shadow on the edge of the property line. Tall. Still. Someone was watching the house. I stepped forward, heart pounding, but they turned and disappeared into the trees before I could call out. Whoever they were. They knew I'd found the box. And I had a feeling they weren't just watching. They were waiting. Part 2, A Name in the Margins. The forest that bordered my property wasn't thick, but it was old. The kind of place where sound disappeared quickly and shadows played tricks on you. I stood at the tree line for a full minute, just listening. Nothing moved. Nothing called out. Whoever had been there, if anyone had, was gone. Still, my skin prickled as I walked back toward the house. Boone trailed behind, ears perked, alert. He never barked, which was worse. It meant whatever was out there didn't feel like a threat. Not yet. Inside, I closed the door and locked it, even though I hadn't in years. Then I sat back down at the table and opened the second notebook. This one picked up a few weeks after the first ended. Sophie's handwriting looked more rushed now, as if she'd been writing fast, like the words were escaping. I thought about telling you the night before I left. I had the words in my throat. But I saw the way you looked at me, and I couldn't bear to change you. You were still good. You still believed people told the truth. I turned the page. His name is Jonas. He was born in October. Yours. Absolutely yours. I didn't need a test, I knew at the moment I saw him. I stopped reading. Jonas. The name hit like a thrown rock. Simple. Sharp. It didn't just change my memory of Sophie. It changed every version of myself that had existed since she left. There had been a son. My son. And I never knew. I grabbed my truck keys. Drove without thinking, just needed motion, distance, something besides the silence in that house. I ended up at the old general store, the one where Sophie used to buy her sketchbooks and cigarettes. Linda was still behind the counter, 20 years older but somehow the same. She looked up from a crossword when I came in. "Well, I'll be damned," she said. "Cal Bennett. Thought you fell off the map." I didn't smile. "Did Sophie ever come back here? After she left?" Linda leaned back, chewing on her pen. "Not that I saw. But I heard she was in town a few months ago. Someone said they saw her near the old train bridge. Looked thin. Sick." "Sick?" She nodded, eyes softening. "Some kind of cancer, I think." She didn't stay long. Back in the truck, I sat with the word cancer echoing in my skull like a church bell. Gone. That's what her letter said. Not metaphorically. Not romantically. Just, gone. She was dead. And she'd waited until the last possible moment to tell me. Not just about the illness. But about Jonas. That night, I read more. The third notebook was different. More structured. Like she'd written it for someone, not just herself. If he finds this, if Cal reads this, then I want him to understand, I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to love myself, and I didn't want you to carry what I couldn't explain. Jonas knows about you. I told him stories. That you were kind. That you could build anything with your hands. That you'd look someone in the eye when you shook their hand. But I never let him meet you. That was my fear. My flaw. Not yours. That's when I saw it. A small photo, tucked between the pages. A boy, maybe 15 or 16. Dark eyes. Strong chin. And something in the way he stood, hands in pockets, shoulders drawn in, that was unmistakably me. Jonas. I turned the photo over. One word. Written in red ink. Find. Part 3, The Trail She Left. The next morning, I woke before the sun. Not because I wanted to, I just couldn't stop thinking. About him. Jonas. A boy walking through the world not knowing the truth about where he came from. Or maybe worse, knowing just enough to feel abandoned. I laid the photo flat on the table beside my coffee. No last name. No location. Just that face. Mine and hers, merged into something painfully familiar. Find. She'd written it like a command. But it felt more like a plea. I called Linda again. Did Sophie say anything about family? I asked. Anyone she stayed with last time she was in town? There was a pause. She used to have a cousin out past Willow Creek. Older woman. Retired schoolteacher. Name was Ellen, I think. Big old house with a barn out back. Sophie stayed there once before she left town the first time. I wrote it down. And Linda, I added, do you know if she was alone? Linda hesitated. Hard to say. But someone saw a kid with her at the gas station last summer. Tall boy. Looked about 16. She told the clerk he was her nephew. My grip on the pen tightened. Thanks. The drive out to Willow Creek took 45 minutes. Most of it was winding hills and soft gravel. I passed the time imagining him, what he might be like. Was he quiet? Angry? Curious? And what would I even say to him if I found him? Hi, I'm your father. Your mother died and sent me a box of secrets. Nice to meet you. The house was easy to spot. Red shutters. An old oak tree bending toward the porch like it was listening for gossip. A woman opened the door before I even knocked. She had sharp eyes and a long gray braid. "You're Cal," she said. I nodded. "You must be Ellen." She didn't invite me in right away. Just looked me over like she was reading something behind my eyes. "She told me you might come." My heart jumped. "Sophie? She mailed a letter here. Said if a man with carpenter's hands came asking, to listen." I didn't know what to say. "She left too many things unfinished," Ellen added. "Maybe this is how they start to settle." She stepped aside and opened the door. Her house smelled like old cedar and something baking. Not sweet, more like cornbread or oats. "Jonas was here last summer," she said. "Just for a week." Sophie was already sick by then, but she didn't want him to know. "Not yet." "Where is he now?" Ellen sighed. "He ran off 3 weeks ago. After the funeral." I stopped. "He knows she's gone." "He knows. But grief hits kids sideways. He didn't want to stay with me. Didn't want to go to his aunt in Chicago either. He just left." My mouth went dry. "Do you have any idea where he might have gone?" She nodded toward a desk drawer. "He left a note. Took Sophie's old journal and a backpack." But the note said something strange. She opened the drawer, handed me a scrap of paper. 4 words. Written in black ink. "Back to where it started." Ellen watched me. "You have any idea what that means?" I did. I knew exactly where it started. And I hadn't been there in 16 years. That night, I stood at the edge of the trail that led to the lake cabin. The one I built for Sophie, before everything fell apart. Before she left. Before Jonas. The place we thought we'd grow old in. It had been abandoned for over a decade. But maybe, just maybe, a boy looking for answers had come here. Looking for ghosts. And a father he never knew. I stepped onto the path, heart hammering. Ahead, something moved behind the cabin window. A shadow. Just tall enough. Part 3, the trail she left. The next morning, I woke before the sun. Not because I wanted to, I just couldn't stop thinking. About him. Jonas. A boy walking through the world not knowing the truth about where he came from. Or maybe worse, knowing just enough to feel abandoned. I laid the photo flat on the table beside my coffee. No last name. No location. Just that face. Mine and hers, merged into something painfully familiar. Find. She'd written it like a command. But it felt more like a plea. I called Linda again. "Did Sophie say anything about family?" I asked. "Anyone she stayed with last time she was in town?" There was a pause. "She used to have a cousin out past Willow Creek. Older woman. Retired schoolteacher. Name was Ellen, I think. Big old house with a barn out back. Sophie stayed there once before she left town the first time." I wrote it down. "And Linda," I added, "do you know if she was alone?" Linda hesitated. "Hard to say. But someone saw a kid with her at the gas station last summer. Tall boy. Looked about 16. She told the clerk he was her nephew." My grip on the pen tightened. "Thanks." The drive out to Willow Creek took 45 minutes. Most of it was winding hills and soft gravel. I passed the time imagining him, what he might be like. Was he quiet? Angry? Curious? And what would I even say to him if I found him? "Hi, I'm your father. Your mother died and sent me a box of secrets. Nice to meet you." The house was easy to spot. Red shutters. An old oak tree bending toward the porch like it was listening for gossip. A woman opened the door before I even knocked. She had sharp eyes and a long gray braid. "You're Cal," she said. I nodded. "You must be Ellen." She didn't invite me in right away. Just looked me over like she was reading something behind my eyes. "She told me you might come." My heart jumped. "Sophie? She mailed a letter here. Said if a man with carpenter's hands came asking, to listen." I didn't know what to say. "She left too many things unfinished," Ellen added. "Maybe this is how they start to settle." She stepped aside and opened the door. Her house smelled like old cedar and something baking. Not sweet, more like cornbread or oats. "Jonas was here last summer," she said. "Just for a week. Sophie was already sick by then, but she didn't want him to know." "Not yet." "Where is he now?" Ellen sighed. "He ran off 3 weeks ago. After the funeral." I stopped. "He knows she's gone." "He knows. But grief hits kids sideways. He didn't want to stay with me. Didn't want to go to his aunt in Chicago either. He just left." My mouth went dry. "Do you have any idea where he might have gone?" She nodded toward a desk drawer. "He left a note. Took Sophie's old journal and a backpack. But the note said something strange." She opened the drawer, handed me a scrap of paper. 4 words. Written in black ink. "Back to where it started." Ellen watched me. "You have any idea what that means?" I did. I knew exactly where it started. And I hadn't been there in 16 years. That night, I stood at the edge of the trail that led to the lake cabin. The one I built for Sophie, before everything fell apart. Before she left. Before Jonas. The place we thought we'd grow old in. It had been abandoned for over a decade. But maybe, just maybe, a boy looking for answers had come here. Looking for ghosts. And a father he never knew. I stepped onto the path, heart hammering. Ahead, something moved behind the cabin window. A shadow. Just tall enough. Part 4, The Stranger at the Cabin. The last time I walked this trail, I was carrying Sophie in my arms. She was laughing, barefoot, and sun-warm. Back then, the trees whispered good things. Now, they only murmured questions. The cabin stood at the end of the clearing, half sunken into memory. The roof sagged a little, and ivy had crept across the stone foundation. But it was still there, still ours. And the shadow I saw through the window. It moved again. I stepped up onto the porch, each board groaning beneath my weight. Boone stayed behind, like he knew this was something I had to do alone. I knocked. Nothing. I tried the door. It opened. Inside, it smelled of dust, pine, and something recently burned, maybe wood smoke. Someone had been here. A backpack leaned against the wall. A half-eaten apple on the table. The air was thick with the presence of someone who hadn't meant to be found. Then I heard it. The quiet creak of a floorboard above me. I looked up toward the loft. "Jonas?" I said softly. Silence. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk." Still nothing. Then, footsteps. He appeared at the top of the stairs, hesitant. Eyes like mine. Shoulders tense, like he'd been carrying something too heavy for too long. "You're him," he said. Not a question. A statement. I nodded. "I think so." He studied me. "You're older than I thought you'd be." I almost smiled. That tends to happen. He came down slowly, one step at a time. No sudden moves. Like he expected me to disappear if he looked too long. How'd you find me? He asked. Your note. And your mother's journals. He flinched at the word mother. His eyes darkened. She lied to me. She lied to both of us. He looked away. I thought I hated her for it, he said. But now I just feel hollow. I nodded. I know that feeling. He stared at the floor. She said you didn't want me. She told me I didn't have a son. We let that hang there. The silence didn't feel so heavy anymore. Just tired. I come here sometimes, he said. She talked about this place. Said it was the only time she ever felt safe. I swallowed. It was supposed to be our beginning. Guess it still is. He glanced up at me, and I saw it, a flicker of something soft behind the anger. Curiosity, maybe. Or hope. Do you want to come in? He asked, voice quieter. I'd like that. We sat for a while. He didn't say much. I didn't press. I watched the fire burn low while he stared out the window. Then, without looking at me, he asked. What was she like, before? Before she was sick. Before the secrets. I took a breath. She was wild, I said. Not reckless, but full of color. She could see beauty in broken things. And she laughed with her whole chest. He smiled, the first real one. She loved to draw. Did she ever show you her sketches? He nodded. She let me see one. Said it was the cabin. But it didn't look like this. She drew it the way it was in her mind. Night came down slow and quiet. The woods outside folded into themselves. Do you want me to leave? I asked him. He shook his head. Not yet. Before I turned in, I gave him space. Let him breathe. But just before I stepped outside to sleep in the truck, he called out. Hey. I turned. If I stay here, can you teach me how to fix it? The cabin? He nodded. Yeah. Make it like it was supposed to be. I met his eyes. We'll do it together. But just as I turned to go, he added. There's something else. Someone else came here before you. I froze. When? A few nights ago. Didn't see their face. But they left something. He reached under the table and pulled out a torn envelope. No name. No stamp. Just 2 words scrawled on the front. Tell him. Part 5, the letter without a name. Jonas slid the envelope across the table. The paper was damp along one edge, like it had been caught in rain or tears. I hesitated before picking it up. There was no mistaking the urgency in the way it was written. Tell him. My chest tightened. You didn't open it? I figured it wasn't mine to read. I studied his face. There was something older in his eyes than a 16-year-old should carry. Loss will do that. So will loneliness. I unfolded the letter carefully. The handwriting was messier than Sophie's, more rushed. But I recognized it instantly, it was hers. Just not recent. This was old. Years old. Dated October 2012. Cal. If you ever find this, it means I failed. I told myself I was keeping him safe. That keeping you away was a kindness. But he keeps asking questions. He looks for your face in strangers. I hear your name in his sleep. I paused. My throat burned. There's something I never told you. Not because I wanted to hurt you, I just couldn't face the shame. Jonas isn't just yours. He's also Richard's. The name hit me like a steel beam. You remember Richard? My stepbrother. After I left you, I had nowhere to go. I thought he could help. But it wasn't help. Not really. I sat down slowly. Jonas watched me. Who's Richard? I couldn't lie. Not now. He was someone Sophie lived with after she left me. Someone who wasn't good to her. Jonas tensed. Was he my father? No, I said, almost too quickly. No. You're mine. She made that clear in the other journals. Then why mention him? I handed him the letter. Let him read for himself. He scanned it, quietly, until his eyes stopped on one line. I wanted to protect Jonas from the parts of me I never faced. But he has a right to know that pain lives in him, too. That he comes from both light and shadow. He folded the page slowly. Did he hurt her? I nodded. It wasn't your fault. His voice dropped. But it's still part of me. We sat with that. Two men, separated by blood and years and silence, now joined by the brutal thread of truth. I hate him, Jonas said. You're allowed to, I replied. He looked up at me, something hard in his jawline. Do you hate her? I shook my head. I think I did. For a long time. But now I just miss who we were. Who we could have been. He didn't speak for a while. Just stared at the fire. Finally, he asked, if you'd known all this back then, would you have still wanted to be my dad? I didn't hesitate. I still do. That night, I stayed in the cabin. Slept on the old couch while Jonas curled up in the loft, the way I used to as a younger man. A storm rolled in just past midnight, wind tapping the windows like a warning. Somewhere between sleep and waking, I heard movement outside. Not an animal. Footsteps. I grabbed my coat and flashlight, stepped onto the porch. A figure stood at the edge of the trees. Tall. Still. Not watching, waiting. Before I could call out, he turned and disappeared into the dark. But not before I saw the scar on his cheek. And recognized the man I hoped I'd never see again. Part 6, The Scarred Past. I didn't sleep after that. I sat on the porch with Boone at my feet, flashlight in hand, heart thudding like a war drum. There was no doubt in my mind, the man at the tree line was Richard. Older, gaunter, but still wearing the same air of menace he'd carried all those years ago. And now he was here. Watching us. Why? By morning, the storm had passed but left behind a chill that settled into my bones. I didn't tell Jonas what I'd seen. Not yet. He seemed lighter after opening up the night before, and I wasn't ready to weigh him down again. But I couldn't shake the feeling, Richard hadn't just come to haunt the past. He wanted something. I drove into town to talk to Ellen. She answered the door in a heavy wool sweater, looking like she hadn't slept much either. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said. Not a ghost, I replied. Something worse. Her face dropped when I said the name. Richard? I nodded. He was at the cabin. Watching. She exhaled slowly, gripping the doorframe. I thought he was gone. So did I. She led me into the kitchen, poured 2 cups of coffee, and sat. Sophie never pressed charges, she said. She was too scared. And he made himself disappear, no records, no trace. But she always feared he'd come back. She told Jonas? No. Just me. And she made me promise, if he ever showed up again, I was to protect Jonas at all costs. Then we need to move him. He's not safe out there. I agree. But if we disappear, Richard might follow. And we won't see him coming next time. On the drive back to the cabin, I played every possibility in my head. Do we go to the police? Do we leave town? Do we face him? Jonas was out front when I pulled in, chopping wood like he was trying to outwork his thoughts. I watched him a moment longer than I should have, the way he moved, the quiet determination in his jaw, and realized something I hadn't let myself admit until now. He reminded me of me. Not just in the way he looked, but in the way he fought against silence. I told him that night. About Richard. About seeing him. About the letter. His face changed, hardened, then cracked. I knew someone was out there, he said. I felt it. Last week, I thought I saw a truck parked by the old access road. It disappeared when I walked toward it. That sick, sinking feeling returned. We need to leave. Tonight. Jonas shook his head. No. Jonas. I'm tired of running from people I've never met. If he wants to find me, he can. But I won't hide. I stared at him. You're braver than I ever was, I said. I don't feel brave. I feel angry. Then we do this together. We protect each other. Around midnight, we heard the knock. Not at the door. At the back window. 3 soft taps. Followed by a voice, low, slurred, familiar. You've got something that belongs to me. Jonas froze. I stepped in front of him. Then the voice again, closer this time. Open the door, Cal. Or I'll open it for you. Part 7, The Reckoning. I told Jonas to get upstairs and stay quiet. He didn't argue, just moved, fast and silent, like he understood instinctively this wasn't a moment for pride. Then I turned back toward the back door. The cabin didn't have a deadbolt, just an old brass latch I installed myself. It wouldn't hold. Not against someone determined. I heard footsteps circling the porch. Then a slow knock at the front. You've had 16 years, the voice said. It's time you gave me something back. Richard. I stepped toward the door but didn't open it. What do you want? I called out. A pause. Then, to finish what she started. My hands curled into fists. She's gone. I know. Another pause. I watched. Something cold slid down my spine. You watched what? The funeral, he said. From the trees. Watched them bury her like she was clean. I fought the urge to throw the door open and drag him into the light. You don't belong here, Richard. I belong everywhere. She tried to erase me. The silence stretched out. Then a quieter voice. He looks like me, doesn't he? That boy upstairs. And suddenly everything in me turned to steel. No, I said. He doesn't. I don't know what made him say what came next. Maybe it was desperation. Or just the sick thrill of power. She came to me, Cal. You think she ran from you? She ran to me. And you know what she asked for? Mercy. I closed my eyes, chest burning. You're lying. She was mine first. She just didn't want you to know that. The door handle turned. I raised the fire poker from beside the hearth. But he didn't come in. Just stood there, breathing. I'll come back, he whispered. When the boy's alone. Then footsteps retreating. Back into the dark. Jonas came down once I locked the door. His face was pale, but he didn't ask if it was safe. Just said. Next time, I want to be the one holding the poker. I almost smiled. But there was no comfort in it. We're not waiting for next time. I called Ellen at sunrise. We're coming to you, I said. Jonas isn't safe here. She agreed. Said she'd clear out the guest room. I didn't tell her about Richard. I didn't have to. She knew what kind of man he was. She could hear it in my voice. We packed in under an hour. Jonas took only what he needed. I took the notebooks. Before we left, he stood in the doorway, looking back at the cabin. It's not ours anymore, is it? he asked. It can be again, I said. But not yet. The drive was quiet. Then, near the edge of town, Jonas broke the silence. If he tries to come near us again, what are you willing to do? I didn't answer right away. Then I said, without looking at him. Whatever I have to. But I didn't know that he was already ahead of us. That Richard had never left town. That he had one more secret to pull from Sophie's grave. One I hadn't even begun to suspect. Part 8, What She Left Behind. Ellen's house was quiet when we arrived, the kind of quiet that feels heavy, like the walls are listening. She met us at the door, arms crossed, eyes tighter than before. Before I could speak, she handed me an envelope. This came this morning, she said. No return address. Just your name on the front. The envelope was thick. Heavier than a letter. I opened it on the porch steps. Inside was a single photo, grainy, faded, of Sophie. Pregnant. Standing next to Richard. His hand on her shoulder. And a note, typed. You sure you want the boy? Not everything in his blood came from you. I clenched the photo so tight it crumpled. Ellen sat beside me. You think it's real? She asked. I don't care. You should. I looked out toward the road. The horizon. I know who he is now. That's enough. She studied me. And if Jonas finds out? I met her eyes. Then I'll tell him the truth. Not the poison version. Just, what matters. That evening, Jonas came into the kitchen holding one of Sophie's notebooks. She wrote about him, he said. I nodded. I know. She was scared. I know that, too. He sat across from me. For a moment, I saw the little boy in him. The one who'd been waiting for answers his whole life. She said he used to say I was his second chance. That he was going to raise me better than she was raised. He paused. But she never let him. Because she saw what you couldn't. He nodded, slowly. Then added. But there's something else. She left something with Ellen before she died. We followed Ellen down to the basement. In an old cedar chest, beneath blankets and candles, she handed Jonas a small locked box. She said to give this to him when he was ready, Ellen explained. I never thought I'd see the day. Jonas opened it carefully. Inside were two things, a birth certificate and a cassette tape. Labeled, in her handwriting. For when he's ready to hear the truth. No matter how much it hurts. That night, we sat by the fire. He pressed play. Sophie's voice filled the room. Jonas. If you're hearing this, then I'm gone. And there's nothing left for me to protect, except you. Her voice cracked. The man who hurt me, he wanted to take credit for you. To mold you into something broken like him. But you were never his. Not in blood. Not in spirit. You were always his son. Cal's. He doesn't know it. I never told him. I was afraid it would be too late. But if you're with him now, then you know. And I can rest. The tape clicked off. Jonas didn't say anything for a long time. Then. So, you are my dad. I always was. He nodded slowly. Then leaned back and closed his eyes. That night, Richard was arrested just outside of town. He'd been lurking near the school grounds. Someone saw him. Turns out, he never legally changed his name. There were old warrants. Charges. Enough to keep him away for a long time. We didn't celebrate. Just sat with the quiet. Months passed. Jonas started helping me in the shop. We built shelves. Repaired fences. Spoke little, but meant every word when we did. Some nights, he'd sit on the porch with Boone, watching the sky. And sometimes I'd sit with him. One night, as the last leaves fell, he asked, "Do you think she ever forgave herself?" I took my time. I think she tried. And I think, by telling us the truth, maybe that was her way of asking us to forgive her, too. He nodded. Then I do. The cabin still stands. We're fixing it, slowly. Together. And sometimes, when the wind moves through the trees just right, I swear I can still hear her laugh.